On every show, I am determined to inform you guys about really amazing candidates who are running across the country and may not be receiving the national attention because of the presidential cycle. One of these candidates is a recently endorsed Matriarch candidate. Her name is Rachel Ventura. She is running for Congress in Illinois' 11th district. Recently, she has been endorsed by Our Revolution National, the Sunrise Movement's local chapter. What else do we have? Brand new Congress, of course. And hey, Marianne Williamson just chimed in a couple of days ago, and of course, Blue America. Rachel, thank you so much for joining and for running. So I just, right off the bat, what is this race about? Why did you decide to run for Congress?
Yeah, so I got into this race because after getting elected locally here to the Will County Board, and I'll talk about the uphill battle that was, but I approached our congressman about signing on to the Medicare for All bill, and after several months of running around, he denied it. Local leaders encouraged me to run against him. I wasn't quite set until I did some research on his voting record and found out he was one of 12 Democrats who voted with the Republicans to strip down the Americans with Disability Act and put businesses first. But the real kicker then became when some local groups rallied his offices about signing on to the Green New Deal. And he has reminded us for the last 10 years that he is a scientist. And so when he said no to the Green New Deal, he said it wasn't practical. I myself, as a naturalist and an environmentalist, that definitely made me outraged. And so I got into the race, and then to double down on his mistake as a scientist is he is supporting a fossil fuel bailout bill called the Use It Act to the tune of $50 million and takes money from the fossil fuel industry. So this is definitely a race that is worth fighting for our entire planet.
Okay, so he's essentially a climate change denying Democrat.
Well, it's worse than a denier because he's not denying it. He knows the danger. So that's, to me, if there is anything worse than a denier, it's someone who knows what's going on, turns their back on the solution so that they can be profitable in their own rights. That's just unfathomable to me.
And he's selling out all scientists essentially as well. Wow. So you decided to run, and you have been a longtime organizer in your community, and I know that knowing your district, there's a lot of movement happening. There's a lot of grassroots organizing. Can you talk a little bit about what's been happening in the last couple of years?
Yeah. So when I first got involved in politics, I'm an unlikely candidate. I'm a single mom. I was going through a divorce when I first ran for politics. People told me right off the bat, oh, you're not going to win. I had a great showing in my first race because we got people excited about having a government that works for everyone. In 2018, then I was elected to the Will County Board, but I ran against my party's wishes. They told me not to run. They stacked the deck against me. I was outspent 3-1. I was the top vote getter. I beat the other Democrat by 11 percentage points and the Republican by 8 percentage points, and she was an incumbent. And what we did was we got out there and talked to people and excited them about how we can change our government here locally and now nationally by getting involved, knocking doors, getting the word out. We have 1,100 signs in the district. We've already hit 10,000 doors, and it's paying off. We're seeing a huge shift of people who feel that there's hope in getting involved in changing, local level politics, but also now congressional level politics. And just recently, I had 2 editorial board debates, one with the Sun-Times and one with the Daily Herald, and it really brought home the message of how out of touch our congressman is. 40% of Congress is multimillionaires, and I'm running against one of those millionaires. Bill Foster is the 34th richest person in Congress, and he was completely out of touch with what the issues are. In these debates, he talked about AI being the top issue of losing jobs, but really our slow growth economy is the thing that's causing that. And so we talked about the wealth gap, the climate crisis, the healthcare crisis, things that he's turned his back on. And in the second debate, the very next day, he doubled down on the AI, and we're just like, you are so out of touch with what Americans are going through every day. I myself am a mathematician, a naturalist, but I'm a single mom working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. And it's unfathomable that he is clueless to what's happening in this country. But he really got the message last night. This morning, we woke up to another endorsement by the Cook County Teachers Union for colleges. So that was really exciting. But also I got a phone call from our senator's office. Dick Durbin was called by Bill Foster, and they are going to endorse Foster because he's also supporting this Use It Act, this fossil fuel bailout. And so we're encouraging people to contact the senators. But what we're seeing is Foster's campaign is really panicking. They're trying to stack an unfair deck and make an even bigger uphill battle by getting, top name endorsements. But really, what we're seeing is, these individuals are also a problem if they're unwilling to support things like the Green New Deal or Medicare for All. And this is the reason it's so important to get involved. We're also hearing that he's taken a poll and it's unfavorable. And he just hired new staff. We're assuming it's from the DCCC.
Interesting. So the DCCC famously is the establishment Democratic Campaign Congressional Committee, and Congressional Campaign Committee, and it's there's the blacklist, right? The DCCC blacklist, and you, of course, are challenging a sitting Democratic Party member in Congress. What does your district look like?
So 2/3 of our district make less than $15 an hour. And then another third of our district is one of the highest paying median averages in the country. So we have a huge wealth divide here. We have everything from very urban setting to farmland and just about everything in between. And so it's a microcosm of what we see across the United States in both in the social issues as well as the economic divide that we're seeing. We have 99 temp agencies that employ low pay workers, but also exploit undocumented and ex-felons. We have a town here, so we have a lot of people who are exploited for those purposes because our policies are not fair to them. And so this is a platform that we're running on: criminal justice reform, immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship, education reform, where we have paid school, fully funded school from pre-K all the way through college. Mm-hmm. Of course, our two biggest issues are Medicare for All and the Green New Deal, because those will immediately help families both with living wage jobs, healthcare, but then ultimately the climate crisis that we must tackle.
Because I know everybody's going to ask, do you take any corporate money or PAC money, corporate PAC money?
No, I don't take any corporate PAC money. I also signed the No Fossil Fuel Pledge, which is something that my opponent obviously cannot sign since he does take money both from corporations and from the fossil fuel industry.
I remember when we talked before, you had talked about the district leaning towards Bernie. Does that seem to be working to your advantage in this race?
Yeah, we have a definite progressive leaning here. 52% of our district went to Bernie in 2016, and most of our supporters are supporting either Bernie or Warren. We have a few other individuals, and of course, we don't stipend their independent opinions and votes, but they see what we're fighting for, and they're getting out there and fighting for it too. But when we knock doors, we're seeing by and large people who are supporting the progressive platform. I have confidence that it will probably go to Bernie here, but it will definitely go to a progressive.
Rachel, you are a single mother who, as you mentioned, works 2 jobs. As a member of the board of Matriarch, I am really proud that the organization has been focused on the economic uphill battle that that women who are working face when they run for Congress. And I don't mean, working at a law firm. I mean working as in trying to get by and are motivated because of their experiences operating in this unjust world and then taking that into Congress. But how are you able to balance this out while you're running for Congress, which is a full-time job in its own right?
Yes. It really takes a village in this case. I hate to be so cliche, but it does. I have volunteers who help drive my kids to yoga. Oh. My mom she normally is in Florida this time of year because it's very cold up here in Illinois. My parents have decided to stay in Illinois to help me raise my kids while this is happening. All of my volunteers are very familiar with my children, and many of them have had to step up and help out. I've even had conversations about, okay, which volunteer wants to help do the laundry or wipe the floor, the counters down, or mop the floors, because there's so many things that, as a woman too, that are tied to our identity and our confidence. Back in the day, the men were the breadwinners and the women took care of the house. And even though that is changing, the subtle messages sent to us has not changed by and large. Mm-hmm. And so, when I look around at my messy house and I think, oh my God, have I failed as a mom? Have I failed as a woman? I have to remind myself, no, this is not what defines us as people. And to constantly fight that messaging is so important. important. So, of course, we have a lot of people who are on this campaign who are going through the same things I'm going through, whether they're working 2 jobs or they're just fed up, they're spinning their wheels, they're not getting ahead, and they're eager to help out wherever it is, whether it's calling, knocking doors, or just helping out around the house. Set up events is a big thing, too. And so my encouragement to people out there who want to get involved in local races is don't be afraid to offer a skill set. If you clean houses or you cut lawns, like those things are important too, because if you want real people who are representing you, these are requirements I have in my house too. And so it's like, how do I manage all of those things, from doing the dishes to cooking to, cutting the lawn, and also working my job and running for Congress. So all of those little things help. It doesn't always just have to be the typical campaign work. It can be things that just help in an everyday capacity.
Absolutely. Rachel, so you had mentioned that Dick Durbin is now coming in, the senator from Illinois, is coming in to endorse your opponent, Bill Foster. I'm just going to throw this out there. Other than giving money, which you should absolutely do first to Rachel's campaign, you might want to call Dick Durbin's office and share how you feel about that, because nothing more than hearing from your constituents or other. I mean, he's in the Senate, he's going through impeachment, but I'm sure that they don't want to hear about this, and it becomes more of a risk.
Especially since he and Tammy Duckworth are co-sponsors to the Use It Act. So I'm disappointed to find that my senators are also supporting a fossil fuel bailout. We need real change when it comes to the climate crisis. We can't keep kicking the can down the road. We can't keep using our tax dollars to bail out the people who have created this problem. We need to start helping Americans, and we also need to start taking a serious look at what is going to save our world. And it's not going to be the fossil fuel industries who do it. It's going to be Americans who step up, fight for renewable energy, get us off of this dirty fossil fuels, and start moving us towards a world that everyone has an ability to live, a government that works for everyone.
Rachel, why is it that Illinois is the center of this? It seems very strange that all the representatives in Illinois are for this bill.
Yeah, well, I think that what we're seeing is, the pendulum politics between whether a Republican or a Democrat in office is really, it's not working for most people, right? Mm-hmm. So people switch side to side, almost in desperation that things will change. And what I'm a part of is a growing movement. I've got other people all around me, Maureen Newman, Robert Emmons, Anthony Clark. They're all challenging sitting Democratic Illinois congressionalmen, because what we're seeing is it isn't working for us, and it's not working for most Americans. And so, I bet if we looked across the country, we're going to find policies like this. This case, as an environmentalist, I expected someone who runs as a scientist to be aware of the climate crisis. So it is unfortunate that there are other Illinois senators who are supporting this. And I'm not sure how some of the other congressmen stand on some of these bills as well. But I think that what we see across the United States is there are issues in each person's states where they're also supporting bills that are not helping out, either it's the climate or the healthcare. And so it's not necessarily unique to Illinois, but it's unique to this establishment that's not allowing the people to have power. And what we really need to do is to give the power back to the people. And that's the growing movement that I'm a part of, whether it's with Matriarch here, the working people, working women, whether it's Brand New Congress. A lot of these organizations, Our Revolution, are saying we have to give our voices back to the people and stop making our government only work for the wealthy few, only work for these people's donors. And that's why it's so important that we're not taking corporate PAC dollars, so people understand that we're here to represent the people. We're here to represent the voice of the working.
Mm-hmm. The Cook County machine is notorious. For those of you who don't know, that's Chicago. The Democratic machine, it's a one-party town. You are outside of Chicago. How have you interacted with the Cook County machine? Have there been any obstacles along the way, dirty tactics? This is, I think, really important for a greater movement to understand, because so many people are motivated to run and they may not know what they're going to face. It shouldn't deter them from running, but just to be aware of the tricks and what happens when you step up. And you've also run before, so you've seen other tricks. But tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so our state is run by our Speaker of the House, Mike Madigan, and because he has a powerful tool of controlling the purse strings of the Democratic Party, and then, of course, having leadership and ability to call bills in the legislative. So a lot of people kowtow to that. And that makes people frustrated because once again, they feel that their voices are not being heard. When I ran for the Will County Board, I ran into some of that where the party had said, oh no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to run. We're going to have someone who's loyal to us run. And I found that unfathomable. And that was my first introduction really into politics here in Illinois. But it's so true. We have a power struggle going on between the Good Old Boys Club and the Madigan Club here in one race. We have other races that are very similar, people who are running against for House seats against Madigan. And he's put millions of dollars into their races. And so there is this, I would say, the hold for old power, where old power basically controls resources or education, and you have to go to them as a gatekeeper in order to be a part of that club. And what we're representing is new power, right? It's the idea of like WebMD or Facebook, or where you can get that information, those resources, some other way as a joint effort. Kickstarter is a new power. And so what we're seeing is that pendulum swing. Now, of course, there are times you're going to want old power. If you want to have brain surgery, you probably want to go to someone who's educated and has the right equipment. But there's other times that new power we can use as an advocate for ourselves, so we can be a voice of ourselves. And in politics, this is a great tool right now. So where people have been turned off in the past because they feel bamboozled or they weren't able to get the resources they needed, now we have politicians who are running for the people without all the gatekeeping. And so we're going to continue to see this play out both, in the country, across the country, also in Illinois where corruption runs high. And we've had multiple polls we know have been taken both about my race from a state level, from a local level, and a congressional level. So it's like, why are people so interested in our race? And it is because we're being a voice of the people. And I think people are scared right now. And that's why it's more important now, more than ever, to get involved in a race like mine or races like mine across the country, because by winning our races on small dollar donations and the voice of the people, we show that the squad is not the anomaly in Congress right now, that they're the beginning of a pattern. This is the next step of the pattern, and it's only going to get easier as we walk down that path.
And in 2020, when we do have a presidential race and people are saying, I only have so much money to give to candidates, please, please, please keep these races in mind, because if we get a Bernie Sanders for president, hopefully, or even if not, but if we get him, he needs a Congress there to support his legislation. And these are the types of advocates that we need in Congress, the ones who went against the establishment, weren't afraid, and can join the squad and others who've been in Congress fighting this fight, this very lonely fight for so long. So, Rachel, your primary is in March. Can you, what's the date?
March 17th, our early voting starts on February 6th. So it is so important to try and get involved, even, whether you're sharing our information on social media to get people excited. If you can donate, even a few dollars goes a long way in our race. It's electventura.com. We're under all the social media platforms under Elect Ventura, or just come knock on our office door. And
real quick, Illinois, you have to be registered as a Democrat already, correct?
No, we now have open primaries.
Just kidding.
And you can register the day of the vote at the ballot box.
That's
so if you are not registered, it's not too late. You can register online, but you can go to your polling place the day of election and register. Early voting will start on February 6th. So you can go to your clerk's office or check out some of the early voting locations. And it's really great to get out there and vote early for candidates and lock in those votes. It really helps a long way with the confidence and putting that aside so we can focus on knocking on doors with people who haven't voted yet.
Fantastic. Rachel Ventura, thank you for joining, and go out there and campaign. I know you have other stuff to do, or take care of your kids.
Yes. Thank you so much. It was good talking with you.
Nice talking with you too.